All of Trials, Abyssal Euphony second rotation is here, and I actually do have an auto team this time. It's kind of hard to tune, but if you can match the speeds, then you'll be able to get within the top 5% as well. And even if you can't, you should at least be able to get within the top 10%. So this was the score I had, 11.6 million within the top 2%. And one thing is that at the end of the last rotation on Sunday, I was looking at my new player account, and the cutoff for top 5% was only 8.6 million. So I would expect that it's still going to be pretty easy to make it within the top 5% this week. Even if you can't, maybe because you have worse gear or you can't tune it properly, and you only get within the top 10%, it's fine, it's only 10 Fates cases. It's also worth mentioning that this is the minimum score. So with the exact same setup I have, there's a certain point in the second phase where you can get a higher score due to RNG procs, which I wasn't even aware was a thing, it just kind of happened. And I ended up getting a maximum score of this, 16.3 million. So my score will range somewhere from 11.6 million to 16.3 million, depending on RNG, with 11.6 being the minimum. With that, let's get into everyone's stats, and then I will also explain the RNG part and why. I forget to mention this every single time. We typically have an Unequip on the second week of a Hall Trials rotation for pretty much every single rotation now, so I would highly recommend waiting for next week and waiting for the Unequip to start, so that you can save on gold when you are re-equipping your units. So here, this is the team we'll be using. We need no ML heroes to get the team bonus, as well as a warrior in the back. I'll say that when you're building this team, you want to be pretty precise with your speeds. If you can match my speeds, I would try to. Just because this fight asks for you to use skills at very specific times. So if you can't use the skills at the right times, then you're either not going to clear at all, or your damage isn't going to be great. Stuff like my units cutting Krau at specific points is mostly for damage. As long as you can get the debuffs into the barrier, you'll at least have a decent score, I would say. Or the debuff nullifier part. If you can clear that, you'll at least have a decent score. And also one more thing is, my setup does rely on Achates S2 hitting Cecilia, so that she gets the -1 turn reduction on her skills. So you might want to make sure that that is happening. If it's not happening, then you should mess with their bulks a little bit. Maybe somebody's too squishy and they're drawing Achates S2 aggro. That would probably be one of the reasons. If the other one might just be Cecilia being too bulky, but that's probably not happening because Euphony does a lot of damage. First up is Cecilia Stats. Cecilia, I have her 215 speed with a good amount of bulk. You want a good amount of bulk to try and survive. And then speed down E with Steadfast Gatekeeper for the damage reduction. A lot of the damage you take is via burns and extra damage procs, so this doesn't really work out as well as it sounds, but it's still some level of damage reduction at least. Next up, we can take a look at Achates. I kind of was very lazy about regearing her. The F-res is useless. You could put that all into defense and HP if you wanted to. And I have her 209 speed. You do want a good amount of bulk so that she doesn't, like, S2 herself too much. S2ing herself might be beneficial in some setups, but in the one I'm using, we wanted to go into Cecilia. Touch of Rekos for the extra healing, and one thing is that if you plan on doing multiple runs to see if you can hit the higher RNG scores, then her EE, you should switch to the attack down one. 25 extra chance to decrease her attack. It's 35 at base, it would be 60 after the EE. I am not molding Achates S1, but if you have this molded already, then it would be 75%. Next is Aramintha. I have her in Grace of Growth. And she is pretty fast. She's pretty fast, and you also want a bit of bulk, just so she doesn't die. For her artifact, I'm using Resolute Soldier series. You can use whatever. This is just for the defense to boost Krau's damage a tiny amount. And then for EE, similar thing to Achates, if you plan on doing multiple runs, you can go for the S1 burn chance. Otherwise, you can just run whatever, it doesn't really matter. And this Aramintha is 16, 17, 18, 15, 12. So it's like roughly 15, 16 speed per piece. Should be pretty achievable for most people, I would say. And lastly, we have Guard Captain Krau, who you just want to max out his defense, but I would also say you should try to get his speed as low as possible. You definitely want him to be really slow so that everybody can get their turns in during the break phase, because on auto, he's going to use his S3 immediately in the break phase, which gives him 50% CR. So, yeah, that kind of sucks, plus you also want to get an AoE in before he S3, so he can actually remove the defense buff. For his artifact, you should use Thorn of the Blue Rose if you have it. It's going to give you the best damage boost. And now we can get into the RNG part and why it happens. So here we are in the second break phase, and this is where the RNG can occur, where you have a chance to get a higher score. Like I said though, you still have a minimum score that is going to be pretty good, it's just a chance for it to be higher. So coming up on this turn is where it gets kind of interesting. Cecilia S2 has 2 guaranteed debuffs. This goes down to 2, and Krau can just take his turn, doesn't really matter. And this is why I was mentioning the effect chances on their S1s, because Aramintha, her only skill right now, is S1. You got a 50% chance to land a burn, 60% if you have an EE, and this would work for the debuff nullifier. Let's see if we hit it. We did. So we hit it, and Achates also only has S1, so she's going to S1 on this turn. There's one debuff nullifier left, and Achates has a 35% chance, or 60 if you have the E, or 75 if you have the E with the S1 molas. And do we hit the 35%? We do. So this is what can happen sometimes. There's just a chance that you will be able to enter the break phase with, like, normally, because it's just off of the S1, it's not guaranteed at all. So yeah, this would boost your score by a decent amount. Now let's quickly go over the odds of you managing to land those S1 debuffs and enter the break phase. So since when I was doing my run, I had absolutely no idea that was even possible. It just slipped my mind completely. I only had a 17.5% chance to land both S1 debuffs, 50% on Aramintha S1 and 35% on Achates. And that run, I also landed it in third phase as well, so 3.0625% chance that I managed to land both debuffs twice. And then if you have Achates and Aramintha S1 EEs, but Achates S1 not molded, it's 36% chance that you manage to land both debuffs, 12.96% that you manage to land in both phases. And if you also have Achates S1 molded, it's 45% chance to land both debuffs, and 20.25% chance that you land it twice. So honestly, you're probably going to be safe for the top 5%, even with this minimum score, just because there's really, like, not that many people doing Haul, I think, especially in this rotation. It was 8.6 million, a decent way into Sunday last rotation, so I would say that just even the minimum score is going to be safe. But that's enough for the explaining, and now we can take a look at the run.
많이 뜨거울 텐데. 어쩐다.
번거로운 한 번에 싹 쓰러지지.
철검.
보여줄까?
손 아픈 걸? 시시하구만.
저를 기다렸나요?
파멸하거라. 이제 푹 쉬어.
나도 할 수 있어.
손 아픈 피하지 마라.
타올라라. 말봐. 악을 분쇄할 힘을.
아이쿠야, 이건 좀 아픈 걸?
실력 발휘 좀 해볼까?
좀 살살하라고. 난 영웅은 되지 못해도 니놈들의 절망은 될 수 있지. 이건 좀 아픈걸? 아이쿠야.
사악한 것이여 사라져라.
아이쿠야.
재료 만들어줄까? 바이바이.
좀 살살하라고. 이건 좀 아픈 것 먹고 빼지 마라.
어두운 거 싫어. 불이 되고 있어.
아이쿠야.
돌파하겠다.
이런 건 싫어.
이건 좀 아픈걸? 아이쿠야.
이제 푹 쉬어. 많이 뜨거울 텐데. 어쩐다.
보여줄까?
좀 살살하라고.
파멸하거라.
아이쿠야. 받아먹은 게 있으니 가끔은 진심으로 해볼까?
나버릴 거예요.
아들 분쇄할 힘을.
시시하구만.
지금 기분이 어때?
실력 발휘 좀 해볼까?
역시 나도 할 수 있어.
이건 좀 아픈걸?
재료 만들어줄까? 바이바이.
좀 살살. 이쯤 하자고.
사악한 것이여 사라져라.
번거로운 한 번에 싹 쓰러지지.
이제 푹 쉬어.
보여줄까?
철검.
받아보시지.
빛으로
타올라라. 바이바이.
하나, 둘, 셋.
이건 좀 아픈걸? 좀 살살하라고.
파멸하거라.
아이쿠야. 이건 좀 아픈. 난 영웅은 되지 못해도 니놈들의 절망은 될 수 있지. 좀 살살하라고.
빛나는 날개를 펼칠게요.
실력 발휘 좀 해볼까?
아이쿠야. 좀 살살. 겁먹고 빼지 마라.
아들 분쇄할 힘을.
이건 좀 아픈걸?
많이 뜨거울 텐데. 어쩐다.
아이쿠야. 이건 좀 아픈걸?
어두운 거 싫어. 불이 되고 있어.
So that's it for the auto team. This is one of the more annoying bosses to auto, just with the way its mechanics work, making you try to use your skills at very specific points. It's probably right behind DDR. I think DDR is worse to try and auto, but at least we got something going for this rotation, and If you do try to go for the higher score, I feel like you're safe even without it. It might depend on your gear, but good luck.